The worldwide leader of podcasting excellence, the King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Like Ted Turner telling Eric Bischoff in the conference room, Eric, give him 2 hours on Saturday night, prime time. And there we go. So whatever happens, Warner Brothers Discovery have just granted AEW a live 2-hour program, Saturday nights, AEW Collision. Thanks for joining me, episode 769 here of the Wrestling is Real podcast. WrestlingIsReal.com is the website where you can find all the stuff on the program. Please make sure, if you haven't done so, if you haven't been subscribing to the show yet and you are not a regular listener to the program, by all means, please do me a favor and go look for us on the website or wherever you find this podcast, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and all other major podcast platforms. Please subscribe. And if you can, Apple and Spotify specifically, please rate and review the program. If you've been a listener to this program for any amount of time, I don't ask for a lot of money. I don't ask for anything like that. I can give you my PayPal if you want to use that. Like I have a PayPal and a Cash App if you want to go ahead and donate to the program. Cash App is at King of All Podcasts, $ King of All Podcasts. And then my PayPal is paypal.me/King of Podcasts. So if you want to go ahead and donate there, feel free to. I'd love for you to do that. And I'll be able to tell you, mention you on the air if you want. And thank you for the generous donation that you give. So now, AEW is here. Collision. Saturday nights, 8 o'clock, beginning June 17th. I was always a little bit wary of this happening, but when I think about it, I go back to when WCW was granted the second show on Thursday nights with Thunder, because they were the ones that started first, and then SmackDown followed after. And Thunder had what? Was it April 98? And then SmackDown came in 99? So it didn't take much, or I think October of 98, SmackDown came out. But either which way, the Monday Night Wars came out like that. Now people are going to really stir that up again, because now we have equal amounts of programming on both WWE and AEW. So now Raw and SmackDown, as they're set with 5 hours, you are getting Collision as a 2-hour format again. We're already kind of used to that being with Dynamite anyway. We know that AEW has a very loaded roster. They have more than enough talent to put across here. I don't think they're going to make the same mistake of creating the brand split. Not necessary. But I think their idea of how they have Rampage to be certain stars, that you could do something here. With Dynamite, the transition right now already has it where they're already kind of putting more of the younger stars and positioning them on Dynamite. To where I could see something happening with Collision being more of the establishment. I mean, Saturday nights is a night of programming you don't see a whole lot of people really gearing towards, but this is a different audience. A wrestling show on Saturday night does make sense. And if it's not at 6:05, that's fine. I actually think that's better. For me, the convenience is I like Saturday nights. They will have to compete with the fact that there will be there'll be at least once a month, there will be a WWE Premium Live event. Unless WWE decides to move it, but they're not. But they're going to have to compete head-to-head with pay-per-views. And what will happen then? Does it split the audience? But I think what it does do is that it does make WWE continue to pay attention and realize they need to go ahead and realize that AEW now is a serious opponent. They are the number 2 company, but what's happened is, and now we haven't gotten the confirmation on the broadcast deal that Warner Brothers Discovery and AEW have agreed upon. Now, Wade Keller has made a point about it, and we'll talk about what he said. Even though he is a wrestling guy, I can go ahead and just bring on to this, and we can go ahead and talk about it. That's fine. But I don't want to get into that too much. I just think that, for me, I'm going to get back to one point in a moment, but I just got abruptly stopped because there is something we need to go and talk about right now that I did not bring up yet, but I just pulled up looking at some wrestling news right now. So I knew a couple days ago they were already talking about WWE Hall of Famer former WWF or WWF World Heavyweight Champion, Superstar Billy Graham, was on life support. He's had a lot of health issues for well over a decade. And he really has always had health issues ever since he left the ring because just all the work, all that was done to his body. But Superstar Billy Graham has passed away. So I want to go and bring that up real quick. So forgive me for the abrupt interruption, but we need to go ahead and talk about this now. Superstar Billy Graham passed away, age of 79 years old. Now, I want to go ahead and take all the background on Superstar Billy Graham and bring it a point because I'm sure as soon as I pull up a real proper obituary, I want to go and bring that up here and bring that up. But this is unfortunate. I'll take this from New York Post and take their story from here. His real name is Eldridge Wayne Coleman. He's been dealing with health issues for decades before things took a bad turn. Ric Flair broke the news of his death, confirmed by TMZ. And Ric Flair tweeted, "The Superstar Billy Graham just left us. Thank you for all your influence on my career." Graham had been on life support in the ICU to deal with numerous infections, organ failure, diabetes, and other ailments that required emergency surgery earlier this month. His wife posted Monday morning that the doctors wanted him removed from life support, but at that point she refused. That's a tough thing to go through. With everything he's gone through and all the hurt he's gone through, she wanted to hold on. No matter what condition he was in, he just felt couldn't do it. A Superstar Billy Graham, a 3-time former world champion professional wrestler, had a title run from 1977 to 1978 in the WWF, New York Territory Promotion, Vince McMahon Sr.'s promotion before he became WWE, inducted into the Hall of Fame of WWE in 2004. He was a bodybuilding friend of Arnold Schwarzenegger. He got into pro wrestling in the 1960s with Stu Hart's Stampede Wrestling in Calgary, wrestled until 1987 until injuries and health issues pushed him out of the ring. He went into a commentary role wrestling for AWA, WWF, NWA, and WWF during his career. Dubbed Superstar during his time on the AWA, he won the WWF Championship from Bruno Sammartino and held the belt for 9.5 months. Remember, he was put in the role of champion 9.5 months in between 2 long championship runs between Bruno Sammartino and then Bob Backlund. His look and charisma influenced generations of wrestlers to come, including Hulk Hogan, Jesse the Body Ventura, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Scott Steiner, Ric Flair, and others. Known for using the word brother in promos, something that became a staple of Hulk Hogan his entire career. And Graham was a steroid user who became a loud voice against drugs. Was a steroid user during the 1990s when Vince McMahon was embroiled in the federal steroid trials, causing a rift between him and Vince. Fences were eventually mended for his Hall of Fame induction. He's survived by his wife and 2 children. It's unfortunate. I'll admit, Superstar Billy Graham was before my time. I never got to really watch him wrestle. I saw clips here and there, but I never went back and looked at it. But I saw his promos. I saw his work. And predecessor to a lot of different wrestlers we see today. A lot. Now, I don't know if AEW made any mention of Superstar Billy Graham, but couldn't have because I guess this news just came out. I just look right now, 10:23. So this is only an hour, 20 minutes ago. I'm getting this story that came in from Pro Wrestling, something from the New York Post. And the story's only getting out there about an hour ago at the moment. 79 years old. And when it comes to his career outside from WWF, again, he won the West Coast Division in 1961 of the Mr. Teenage America Bodybuilding Contest. Worked extensively, trained in Gold's Gym in Santa Monica, where he was friends with the likes of Dave Draper, Franco Columbu, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. 1978, took part in the World's Strongest Man competition. Finished 7th in this contest in spite of injuring himself in one of the events. Worked the Stampede Wrestling, as we mentioned. Also then wrestled in Championship Wrestling from Florida. And did take his name from Billy Graham, the famous preacher, the televangelist. Went to work for Roy Shire's NWA San Francisco promotion in 1970, working with Pat Patterson, who was his tag team partner. Also worked along the sides of the stars like Ray Stevens, Cyclone Negro, and Peter Maivia. And then he worked with AEWA in 1972, where he took on the name Superstar Billy Graham, toured and feuded with Vern Gagne, The Crusher, The Bruiser, Wahoo McDaniel, Bradley Robinson, Ken Paterick, Ivan Koloff. Ivan Koloff would be his tag team partner at a point, and integrated not only doing arm wrestling contests, but weightlifting challenges, many involving Ken Patera and posing routines. Had a long feud with Wahoo McDaniel in 73 and 74, including a lot of the Indian strap matches. Also worked in Japan for the IWA's Super Wide Series. And then, when he returned from Japan, he formed a team with Dusty Rhodes, left NWA, went to the NWA in 1975, signing up with Red Bastion's Dallas-based promotion for 5 months, and taking the local Brass Knucks title from Mad Dog Vachon in August of 75. And then he worked for the Mid-Atlantic promotion in North Carolina, standing in for Ric Flair, who had been injured in a plane crash. Joined the WWF October 75 in a tag team match at Boston Garden, where he and a tag team partner, Spirios Arion, took on the heavyweight champion at the time, Bruno Sammartino, and Dominic DeNucci. The Grand Wizard was one of his managers, and went back to NWA for a while, worked with Dusty Rhodes in the NWA Florida promotion, went back to WWF in April 77, defeated Bruno Sammartino April 30th, 77 in Baltimore, Maryland, and had a long list of opponents he took on as champion: Jack Briscoe, Dusty Rhodes, Pedro Morales, Don Morocco, Mil Mascaras, Strong Kobayashi, Carlos Roca, and Rika Choshu. He also wrestled in January of 78 at the Orange Bowl and wrestled Harley Race in a unification match in which, Billy Graham was then WWF World Heavyweight Champion. NWA World Heavyweight Champion was Harley Race. It ended in a 1-hour time limit draw. And like I said, this guy worked with everybody. And then he would go ahead and going back to NWA, go on hiatus. He flipped back and forth quite a bit. Did go back to WWF, 82 to 83, came with a leaner look. Challenge Backlund for the WWF Championship, was unable to win the title. Left the promotion April 83, which led the way for Hulk Hogan to come in. Then he went back to AWA, back to NWA, back to WWF, 86 to 89. Graham's last wrestling match was against Butch Reed, 44 years old, took place November 7th, 1987 in St. Louis, Missouri. Then he became a commentator in between bouts of surgery. 2004, he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2004 by Triple H, who Graham had helped inspire to become a professional wrestler. Graham got a lot of controversy for selling his Hall of Fame ring to purchase anti-rejection medications to help treat his liver transplant. And, he had some points he came back in and was appearing on television in the 2000s and the 2010s, and that was it. He was currently on a Legends contract, and he had re-signed a 5-year contract. So, expect on SmackDown a tribute to Billy Graham. Deserved. It's unfortunate. So, Godspeed to Superstar Billy Graham. Thank Billy Graham, Superstar Billy Graham, for all the contributions to wrestling that I can never do any justice in giving a proper tribute. That's like a Kevin Castle or Don Tony, or, those kind of guys can do that. Dave Meltzer, obviously. Wade Keller, I can't do that justice. I'm not the guy to do it. But I know he's significant. And I've seen enough of him to know how important he was. And problem is that you just had a lot of injuries that really hurt his career. But, unfortunate. So let's get back to AEW Collision. So what we have now with this story, Warner Brothers Discovery is now doubling down. I never thought I would see after Thunder came back, where Thunder was brought on, and then Nitro and Thunder were the two shows that were having 5 hours. It's funny, now we're the other way around, because the 3-hour format WWE decided to do, that's the one thing that I hope Tony Khan will never do. Number one, not do the brand split. Number two, make one of those shows 3 hours. Please don't do it. Please don't do it. But here's the thing. The folks at Warner Brothers could have very well made a stink, because some people from Turner are probably still in that building when WCW was around 20 years ago. They could have very well said something. But time heals all wounds, and wrestling has become hot again. Not to mention, looks like AEW is really good on the lean. They're not somebody that overly spends like a gross amount of money. And Tony Khan is a billionaire in his own, his family's a billionaire in his own right. And they've worked really efficient with what they've had. And now they're at the point of this deal, because they're at the point where they're not owned by the network. Meanwhile, WCW was. I don't think they have any particular stars right now of the veterans that really stand out and are holding anybody down. When I look at it, it doesn't feel that way. There are not any stars like a Hulk Hogan or anybody like that really can go into that place. And remember, they've already had, 4 years now of the programming. To see it's been pretty consistent. They never had a significant drop-off in programming. There were quite a few times when they brought in new talent, when they brought in veteran talent that was from WWE. Listen, they did cross the $1 million barrier. Could they do that now with Collision? Well, with Collision, they're going to have to deal with sports programming going on. They're going to have the head-to-head competition of the following. When they get to the fall, they will have college football. That will be on various networks. ESPN will have a Saturday night game. Fox will have a Saturday night game. Or as ESPN ABC will have primetime games of college football. They're betting on the fact that they're probably not going to have to worry about that. But it's sports programming that's there. And Warner Brothers Discovery really doesn't have any of that. TBS or TNT does not do college football. So they're just giving an alternate version of programming, some live sports programming that will go along with it. That's also before any of the sports programming that would really be significant at night, which is normally UFC or boxing. And for the most part, UFC, you're talking about the prelims going on between 8 and 10, and then 10 o'clock's the main event, or the main card of a UFC fight. So that's not going to get affected. That might be a pretty good pregame for some people to watch combat sports, and then lead into UFC at the night. And there'll be quite a few people that will stay home at night to watch it. I don't think that's going to be much of an issue. I think Saturday night's actually a pretty good night for them. It's not too early. And I think, sure, there can be people going to go out, but I think they could pull a good audience on Saturday nights. There's nothing on network TV that's going to go up, because remember, network runs all reruns and some sports programming if they have it. So like NBC, they'll run Notre Dame football. If it's CBS, they're running reruns. If it's ABC or ESPN, they're running college football. That's just in the fall. After that, there's primetime sports that goes on. Like NBA does run primetime on Saturday nights on ABC, but that's not going to be much of a difference here. I mean, that's the same thing would have any other night. Sports might be a dominant thing on those nights, but that's about it. But there are no other shows. No other programming is out there. It's not been tested. I mean, I think it could work really well. And it's not, and they're not dealing with any other wrestling programming that night either. So why not? And as for the lineup, the roster, you can do a good balance. And now you have enough TV time across the board for all these wrestlers under the AEW banner to work in. Plus more money on their contracts. And the one thing is, AEW has not been one to go ahead. I don't think they've been doing anything where they've been grossly overpaying a lot of stars. I don't see it. You now have a reason for CM Punk to come back, which I'm not worried about that, but hey, well, nevertheless, the deal is now they've put this together. Eventually, we might see that they're going to have $1 billion deal, 5 years, and all their programming is right there. As for WWE, probably a chance that Fox will not be carrying SmackDown on the next deal, and that NBC Universal might be carrying all the programming on their portfolio coming up. We don't know. And also the streaming, I guess, for the events. I don't know if they said anything yet about the pay-per-views, but the streaming library most likely will be going on Max. Like AEW, they solidify the relationship. The Collision show further gives confirmation that AEW is staying around for another broadcast deal. They're going to see here for another 4 or 5 years. And Warner Brothers Discovery is happy to be in bed with them. They're satisfied. They feel like they've earned the right to bring them on, partly because of the fact that the streaming service is out there. Like the landscape of television right now. Live sports dominates. It rules on cable, on network. And they're trying to get on streaming, but the thing is, live sports, and AEW fits that role. They have to have something there. Streaming's not making enough money, so you have AEW that can bring in advertisers. They can have that programming on, a consistent audience, which is a significantly younger audience, not by much, but it is a younger audience at that. And I think the one thing I think will be a concern will be, will there be a little too much fatigue of watching wrestling 4 nights a week for some people? For me, it's not. Because remember, I mean, a lot of people are in the whole idea of, well, we're not actively like glued to the TV. For the most part, TV these days, it's just a backdrop. It's background noise. And we're just kind of casually watching as we're looking at our phones. We're watching TikTok. We're watching Instagram. We're looking at our Twitter feed, our Facebook, whatever. But it's still enough. And now you have all this here. The one thing I don't want to see either of 3 things I don't want to see. Number 1, I don't want to see a third hour ever come to AEW on any of their programs. Number 2, I don't want to see a proper brand split. I don't want to see that. And finally, don't increase the pay-per-views. Please keep them quarterly. Do not change this. Just because you're going to have this extra one. Listen, if you go to 6, I understand. I might justify that because for Warner Bros. Discovery, if they can make more money on premium live events, okay. If you have to make a concession and increase to 6, fine. But don't. Because right now, you're already going to have your Ring of Honor pay-per-views, the Forbidden Door, and now you're going to get All In London for this time around, plus your normal 4 pay-per-views for AEW. We don't need more than that. So I think you could do something where you can put the compromise and just keep AEW as a brand with 4 pay-per-views a year. If you have to go 6, okay. But please don't go more than that. We don't need monthly pay-per-views for them. Because it's really nice to watch their pay-per-views regularly, and I like it like that. This does further create the competition for WWE. They have to figure this out now. They have to realize that now they're doing better. Remember, the change of the guard where Triple H is now taking over creative, regardless of what you think if Vince is more involved or not, it's still a better product. But there is a lingering issue that I'm going to talk about later on, and that's Roman Reigns. Because the reports are already talking about that Roman Reigns is going to try to pursue more work in Hollywood. That's the ultimate goal. And the other wrestlers are going to be feeling the same way. Seth Rollins is on the set of a Captain America series for Marvel for Disney Plus. It's a TV, right? I don't think it's a movie. I think it's TV. I'm not sure if it's what, but the story's in there. I just got to go back and follow it again. There was a lot to cover this week. A whole lot. So I'm looking at that and I'm saying to myself, wow. WWE, they must continue to follow the course. They've brought on from the draft some new fresh faces on programming from NXT. Are they going to do any better? Is it going to move the needle? I don't think so, but they can go ahead and bring everybody on that they want. and see if it makes any difference. Grayson Waller, or bringing back Apollo Crews, or bringing Indy Hartwell up to create the Way up there, the whole faction again. I don't know. I don't know if it makes much of a difference, but they decided. Let's get into the AEW Collision story and what they actually said. I'm taking it from Deadline.com. So the announcement of this was made by Kathleen Finch, Chairman and Chief Content Officer of U.S. Networks Group for Warner Brothers Discovery, during the company's 2023 upfront presentation at Madison Square Gardens Theater in New York City. So they will feature headliners they were saying in the announcement, including Miro, Samoa Joe, Thunder Rosa, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Andrade El Idolo. Yes, Andrade's returning. Along with CM Punk, they're returning back to programming. Now, apparently, Rampage is going to stay on the lineup on TNT on Friday nights. And now Collision will be on TNT. Jason Sarlanis, president of Turner Networks ID and HLN. So Turner Networks is TBS and TNT. And also as head of their linear and streaming divisions, respectively, says, quote, "We're doubling down on wrestling with AEW Collision, which gives fans 2 more hours every week. AEW's roster of talent has expanded so quickly that we felt it needed another night to bring our audience the epic rivalries, unforgettable matches, and stars they love to watch." Now, some of you have already seen that when I look at what's being done so far with AEW and bringing Collision on to Saturday nights, if you saw the graphics, yes, it does feel like WCW Monday Nitro. They gave us yellow and red. I love it. I think it's great. It is a throwback to Monday Nitro. And why not? Listen, AEW feels like my WCW. Now, at this point of the conversation, I've never said it on my program if I have a particular allegiance to one or the other, because I've always been kind of neutral. But if any of you have already known on this program, yours truly, King of Podcasts, I've always been not the WWE loyalist. I'm an avid fan. I watch a lot of it. Okay? I've watched plenty of WrestleManias in my time. I've watched the Raw and SmackDown shows plenty of years. Okay, going back, I remember I watched Primetime Wrestling back in 1983, first time when I had cable. And religiously watched it and enjoyed it. But I'll tell you what, I still was a fan of NWA because I watched World Championship Wrestling at 6:05 Eastern on TBS. And I would watch AWA on ESPN. I would watch World Class Championship Wrestling on ESPN. And I would catch UWF on Channel 39 Sunday nights at 11 o'clock, watching Jim Ross talking about having matches against Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the One Man Gang. I watched Glow. I was a fan of Glow. I loved it. I remember watching Pro Wrestling This Week with Joe Pedicini and Gordon Solie. That goes back to my history of wrestling. I've always been well-rounded when it comes to wrestling. And then in the 90s, 1996, I got Sunshine Network and I was watching ECW at 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday nights. Or Saturday mornings. And WCW, I watched Saturday night, off and on. But then more than not, I was watching Nitro when it first premiered. And stuck with it. And then Thunder, then SmackDown. But I've always been, like if you told me who would I side with in the Monday Night Wars, I'll tell you it's WCW. But I was allegiant to WCW and ECW. Because ECW was the better brand to me than the other two. I was more of a fan of ECW. I bought their pay-per-views. I enjoyed watching them. Okay, I went out of my way to watch their show. I felt bad the TNN show really never panned out like I hoped. To me, the ECW on TNN show, Paul Heyman got a bad deal on that show. It was bad. And it never lasted long, but hey, what are you going to do? And I think it hurt the overall product, but like they needed to have the TV show. They had no choice, right? But nevertheless, I was always allegiant to somebody else besides WWE. At this moment, my allegiance is still not WWE. It has not changed. But I think for me, I really enjoy AEW. I look forward to their programming on Wednesday nights. I look forward to Dynamite. I don't watch Rampage as much. Like, honestly, I have not watched Rampage in a few months. And I did catch the firm deletion. But really, Rampage comes on at a bad time. Because you know what? If I didn't have the movies to go see it, I don't go back to go watch it. I just don't go back to watch Rampage. On demand, no. So, for me, I've always been about watching Dynamite because it's a good time for it. Wednesday nights is a good night for it for me. By the way, you know, when we've had changes like this to the programming, you know, I've always had a thing where I would go ahead and change up the shuffling of the show and what they would record. Well, I'm not changing anything. Just because Collision will be coming on now as part of my viewing schedule does not change anything. I will continue to stay recording this show normally after Dynamite on Wednesday nights, and then I put the show up early Thursday morning. It's going to stay like that. If I can get a little bit sooner, I will try, but the thing is, you know, I'm doing a new format now when I record, where I'm just recording in real time. Hell, I don't even bother to splice it together. I found a platform that'll record it just fine, record my audio at the same time to the computer. So, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to do it like I'm going to do like a radio show. Like I know how to do it. So I don't have to do a lot of work. I'm being lazy, but this is why I'm good at what I do. So I'm happy to see AEW's here. They made it. And now we have these shows. They're not going to have a shortage of content. They're not going to have to stretch out anything. They will obviously have to have their shows to have all that programming and all that time to go and put matches and feuds together, but they'll have time for that. They won't have to rush through anything. I guess the only question I have is, Dynamite, will that still be the A show, and will the B show be what Collision's going to be? Yeah. I think it's not going to be that. I think they're not going to go ahead and water down Collision at all. Because I honestly think Raw and SmackDown are actually very much at level. SmackDown's the A show, Raw's the B show. But not by much. Not by much at all. It's just that Raw has more time. Now, as for Saturday nights and Collision, here's the other thing too. Nobody's booking each other on the same night. Thank goodness, man. See, AEW has not tried to get into WWE's lane. That's the other part I want to make mention of as well. They're not trying to go on Monday nights. They didn't try to go on Friday nights. See, WWE, they're actually well off having Monday and Friday nights set for their programs, all split up and spread out. With AEW, the same thing. Wednesday and Saturday, it's a nice spread. Nice time apart to go and put that together. Now, it's just getting into the habit of watching Saturday nights. That's just the part for me. But it's good. Because I already didn't have anything on Saturday nights to watch anyway. Now I do. I love it. This is good to me. Because I'll admit, it's been kind of, I've been kind of not so keen to watch. I mean, I haven't watched NWA in a while. I have not stopped to watch. Impact Wrestling I still watch. I've been watching more clips, and I've been trying to go and catch myself to watch it on TV, but NXT I don't watch. I kind of tapped out. I mean, I'll still watch what they're doing and all. Yeah, the women's championship tournament on the NXT side, okay. But really, there's nobody over in NXT that makes me say, I gotta watch this person. Except for Tiffany Stratton, because she looks great. Cora Jade? No. She's no AJ Lee. No, she's nothing. Roxanne Perez, I mean, that was maybe the one reason I had NXT to watch. And eventually I think she'll move over. But they're going to keep her going after the women's title again. Impact I still watch. I'll definitely watch her pay-per-views. Ring of Honor, I just haven't I haven't gone over to Watch Honor Club. Just haven't done that. And MLW is going to be coming back to YouTube because honestly, trying to watch them on Reels did not work for me. I just forgot, and I would constantly forget to go ahead and get them. I remember I did them recording on DVR, and I'll tell you what, I need that show streaming. I need all my shows available for stream. I can't do this. I can't watch on cable anymore. I've completely lost the interest of putting TV on and going through the effort. It's now, does anybody else feel that way? I mean, tonight I was watching, after Dynamite, I was watching the Miami Heat Boston Celtics game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And I'll tell you what, it was a chore. It was a chore for me to go find my remote to turn on the TV, then get the cable box on, and then put my speaker on so I could watch my sound box, my sound box, my sound bar. I get to go through that. I felt like, oh, I got to do that, and I was tired. I was like, damn, it's so much easier. Just give me my laptop and just click, and I'm in. Like, I got to have that. What happened to me, man? I'm so lazy now. Freaking fracking digital technology, man. Updated. If it's not on my phone, like, I got to be able to just give me my thumbs and I'll just load it up on my phone or my laptop. But don't give me the TV, man. The actual physical, like, thing to watch on, man, I'm just struggling with it now. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. So anyways. So there's more details coming from Forbes and Alfred Canoe I'm going to take from. That he's saying that what it looks like is that with AEW Collision, they will debut with the debut being at the United Center in Chicago. So they're going to just try to go CM Punk all over again. See if that helps. Tony Khan made a statement saying, with the addition of AEW Collision on TNT, I'm extremely proud that the Turner Network will be the home of Saturday Night Wrestling for the first time in more than 2 decades. He goes on to say that it's significant across numerous sectors, including TV, wrestling, entertainment, and sports, and reinforces AEW as the bold property we envision when we launch in 2019. And every Saturday night, they're going to deliver more of what fans and viewers tell us they want: athleticism, big personalities, exciting storylines, and hard-hitting wrestling action, all of which becomes synonymous with AEW. AEW Collision is expected to have a soft roster split, the return of CM Punk, following his nuclear brawl with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks at AEW All Out. Tensions have yet to be publicly acknowledged or resolved during the pending legal issues. The question is, how much money did AEW receive from Warner Bros. Discovery for their TV deal? We know they have a deal. They would not have announced Collision, a new program, if not, but that is something that's going to happen. We're going to find out about that soon enough. So AEW Rampage will most likely be a C show. Who knows what it's going to be? Maybe it'll be the new WCW Saturday Night. How Saturday Night would become after Nitro and Thunder came into play, remember? Because once Thunder came in, Saturday Night was never the same again. We know that. So whether or not Rampage holds on for dear life in the shadows, AEW turns Rampage into its version of NXT, or it captures the spirit of AEW Dark and Dark Elevation, you never know. I'm not worried about Rampage so much. And I don't know if you can have a show like Rampage like that again. I don't know. But I'm not too worried about it. Not a big thing to go and do. Now, as for one more media site that'll talk about Collision, it got some good coverage. Variety.com also talked about it. But they really just took for the announcement itself, and that's pretty much it. Now, let's talk about the deal itself. The impending deal that's being reported. I'm going to take it from Wade Keller and Pro Wrestling Torch. Now, he did a couple things that I'm going to go ahead and debunk, or I'm going to go ahead and dispute with him, that he talks about when it comes to what will change and what are some issues to be concerned about on how this could be a failure or a chance to grow to new levels. So we'll take what he says. So now, there's being reported the original $1 billion evaluation of AEW's rights deal might be low compared to the actual numbers. So that was a report that's been going out there. Multi-year deal for around $1 billion. So now, those estimates are on the low side. Wade Keller of Pro Wrestling Torch says the new deal is expected to be worth to be approximately $240 million per year over 5 years, but make it $1.2 billion, or 20% more than originally reported. Approximately $4.6 million per week that All Elite Wrestling will be making, and really help ensure that you're operating in the green as a profitable company. AEW would include Dynamite, Collision, and Keller noted a Max streaming service would be announced in the near future, which means the AEW library would be housed there. Speculation has been said that it could air, AEW All In could air on Max in the United States to avoid the promotion running 2 pay-per-views in 7 days. Now, Keller points that there's some areas of concern with AEW with the deal. Let's talk about what he said on his site, pwtorch.com, and what he says are the issues. I'm going to take it one by one. He thinks that the booking will be spread thin. That's already been a weak point in his view. That Tony Khan's booking is too often paper thin with an over-reliance on the star-rating thrill of the action, less on nuance and layered character development. Well, this is the same guy that says that, the wrestlers should have like off seasons. Like an off season and an on season. Things like that. Forget what some of the other ideas he's had. Listen, he's got some, interesting ideas, but I never really took what he took when he took on to any kind of issues. Talent will be featured more often. It could be overexposed. Now, listen, there's a whole lot of people we don't even see as much. Think about the fact that if you have Collision and Dynamite, if you want to see House of Black, Lucha Brothers, Young Bucks, you want to watch The Firm, or now The Firm's broken up, if you want to go and see all these new stars that are in here that don't get normally watched, like right now, Dynamite, you're just getting a healthy dose of the 4 pillars. You want to see more of FTR. You want to see more of, Los Ingobernables. You want to see more of Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. You want to see more of the Hardys. Like, there's a whole lot of people they're talking about. Trios, tag team matches. Remember, they got a whole lot of belts. They got the international title, the TNT title, the TBS title. The women get a lot more time now than they ever could, and the women have a whole lot to work on. Right? I guess that's the other thing I have to want to concern about is that are there going to be certain titles that we still run on different brands? The TBS title is specifically Rampage. But maybe they'll do something here where they'll have the women's world title. Remember, they got what? World title, TNT title, TBS title, international title, trios title, tag team titles. It's a lot. They got room for all that. And maybe there's some other things they could do on the programming that might be a little more long, stretched. We don't know. We can figure it out. TV event arena attendance can suffer. Well, they've already been running Rampage as it is, right? Like, we already know they've been having Rampage, and they'll have TV tapings for Dark and Dark Elevation nearly running on the nights they run Rampage. They're already used to running 2 nights a week for television. So some fans might not want to attend twice as often over the course of each year. So many cities to visit with regular TV events, but that doesn't make sense. Like, they already got a deal where they already run events like they do anyway, with some live events as house shows. Now, this is the question he asked, and I did want to ask about, because he talked about if Warner Brothers Discovery wants streaming content on Max, does that mean AEW will increase the number of special events? So that's the question they got there. I guess the other thing I have to worry about is, well, Saturday nights, TNT, they're not going to worry about being preempted for the most part of anything. Because TNT didn't have anything on those nights anyway, except movies. So obviously the movies are not going to be something they're going to worry about on Saturday nights. Like they used to always have like the big movie night on Saturday nights for TNT. But I guess they're not going to worry about that too much because they're just going to let it be occupied by wrestling. Why not? That's their plan. Now, he also talked about that throwing matches that would have been otherwise on Rampage or Dark to pad Dynamite and Collision each week, booking the same wrestlers twice as often, lengthening the key matches to fill TV time, could backfire. These shows need to feel as substantial and worth viewers' time as Dynamite currently does. And he says some weeks lately that's already been a struggle. Well, I disagree. And then he goes on and says the TV rights feed-based era isn't really matchmaking, having a strong team in place to present new ideas and concepts while also storyboarding and pacing storylines over weeks with coherent and compelling interactions between wrestlers that don't feel convoluted at first takes or contrived amateur hour skits, which AEW suffers from all too often. Listen, these people think they're going to be WWE. AEW is not. Let it go. See, the other thing is, it's all these people that want to go and have their talk here because they want AEW to do things that WWE doesn't do. I don't care about that. AEW will stay in their lane. AEW can do a 2-hour programming extra. Listen, what they don't need to do, which I think is one thing they should also be taking into account, no more Battle of the Belts. I said that last week. If this deal's going to come into play, okay, Dark Elevation, gone. Battle of the Belts, gone. Fine. So now you got Rampage. Who knows what Rampage is going to become at this point? But if TNT wants to keep it on Friday nights and they still want to go and have that show featured, it's a tape program, doesn't matter. Meanwhile, Collision's live. And for them, it's not going to hurt them at all for them to do Collision and decide to go and do dark matches before or after. Okay? So if they want to have matches for Rampage, they're not hurting. They can do whatever they want. Well, they could go and just tape matches for Rampage and just do what they want after the fact. Like, they're not hurting, or they're not hurting about it. But my thing is Rampage from Friday night to Saturday night. That's still too much. Rampage is not going to be, it's going to have to be something else. Now, does Rampage become what NXT is? Like, do you put the younger stars there? Is that what Dark and Dark Elevation is? Well, the thing is, they're not going to be Dark and Dark Elevation because of the fact that the internet shows a different story. Now, you could do Rampage, and you could do it like Dark and Dark Elevation. You can have it where you had Taz and you could have Taz and Excalibur do the show like they were doing on Dark, but just give us something better because they just can't put the type of show that was on the internet on YouTube and put that on TV. They have to put something more caliber. I mean, with Rampage, they would probably have to expect to have the same kind of viewership. So if that's their NXT, make it that. Make it the younger brand that goes on and like these are the stars of the future. Focus more on that. Like, that's not a problem to me. I think you could do something like that and let it feature as such. And then you just cobble that show together and you make it something different than the other two shows. And then Dynamite and Collision, other standalones. And I think you make one show where Dynamite's more of the younger, the more of the progressive, more of the younger stars on the come up that are becoming big stars. That's what Dynamite is right now. Collision is more of the tried and true, the veterans really getting their spot. And that's a good thing to do on Saturday nights. That's just the way I look at it. And I think that can be done. And I hope that's what they're planning on doing. All right. Now, with that said, we need to move along now into what WWE's been doing. So now, Roman Reigns is set to reduce his work schedule again, as reports are saying, because he's going to be moving to Hollywood. Now, Roman Reigns, and the story comes from WrestlingNews.co. I'm going to bring this up real quick. Reigns has recently been added to a house show in Fayetteville, North Carolina, Saturday, May 20th, but as the year progresses, you see less and less of him at WWE events. Insider account Boozer, hashtag BWE, stated on social media there are plans to fill the huge void that Reigns will leave soon with other huge names. And that hashtag BWE was asked if Reigns would take the titles with him if he takes another sabbatical, and the answer is yes. Rumors that Reigns is leaving WWE this year responded no, but less scheduled with time. Nick Khan has already stated that Reigns has Hollywood aspirations and that WWE would be working with him on TV and movie projects. So yeah. Now we're at the point where we could see this happen. We could absolutely see something at the point where Roman Reigns might not be there as much. And the other thing is, we're going to see the same thing going on when it comes to what will happen with the other stars in WWE if they decide to go Hollywood as well. So let's go back to April this year. NewJersey.com put out a story about saying that Hollywood is calling Roman Reigns. He might be the next Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Now, let's just go back and remember what Tony Khan said on the Marshawn and Iran Sports Media podcast. There are a lot of conversations going, quote, but we fully support that. But Roman is staying with us as well. If it happens, which we think he has a good shot of happening, hey, we're excited for him. So Nick Khan has gone on record to say that. And I really believe that's what's going to probably happen soon enough, that Roman Reigns will probably be around less and less, and that's what's going to happen. And you know what? Another person that went to the Hollywood route, and we see less and less of, but deservedly so, is John Cena. Anyway, we're glad we got to see him at WrestleMania. He fought Austin Theory, and Austin Theory won. And he talked about growing in the realms of acting professional wrestling when it was on Busted Open Radio. And he says, quote, we started with TV with Vince in 2002, did the movie Trainwreck in 2012, 2013, came out in 2014. So if we do a 10-year period, it's now 2023, and we do 10 years in the WWE in 2012, right? I was still gaining fluency. I didn't feel comfortable until about 2015, 2016, 15 or so years before I saw ones and zeros. Even then, upon seeing that fluency, it's like, oh, now there's a whole bunch of more stuff to learn. He doesn't feel like an outcast anymore. Doesn't feel like he doesn't belong. But I also know I still have to work some main events with some marquee veterans to be able to absorb what I feel I need to get from my fluency. So I'm not there yet, but I feel like I'm on the outside looking in. I don't feel like, we need the rest of the guy because of the audience. It's more like, we welcome you in the environment to try what you can, and we're going to coach you along. I'm still getting heavily coached through a lot of the stuff. And he's still trying to figure it out. Like, John Cena's doing fine. He's created a persona for himself. He is a celebrity now to the point where WWE might have made him, but John Cena is his own person now. Like, you don't look at him as that. He's become this type of character you expect in movies and TV shows, period. Like, it's different for him now. And it works for him. I'm glad for him. I'm glad to see it happen. Now, as I made mention of at the top of the show, Seth Rollins now is filming for Marvel's Captain America's New World Order. Captain America New World Order. And let me tell you what we got so far on this. It's a new movie, by the way. I didn't realize that. So I don't know if this is what is the new feature film, I guess. I'm guessing it is because we'll figure it out. But the word is that Seth Rollins right now in this movie, Captain America New World Order, is either playing either Cobra or Constrictor of the Serpent Society. Now, this is the first Captain America movie for Marvel not to feature Chris Evans as Captain America, and it actually features Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson. So I don't know if this is going to be something that will be out. Oh, scheduled to be released May 3rd, 2024. So we actually might see this as a feature film. I didn't realize that. Oh. And there are pictures out there of Seth Rollins in character. And he looks a lot different. But good for him. He made it out there. There was a picture that came out earlier over the weekend of him filming in Atlanta, Georgia for this movie. The other person we're hearing about is Rhea Ripley, who was asked about Hollywood aspirations. And she spoke with the Cheap Heat podcast, that's Peter Rosenberg's program, about the crossover. She says she would be interested, but only in particular types of films. And she's already been offered a movie role in the past, but had to turn it down during the scheduling conflicts. Fightful.com got a transcription and wrote this down, and she said this. I mean, it could be, if I feel like I were to do a movie, it would have to be action or horror. I don't think I could really do anything else, but I've definitely thought about it. I did acting classes for like 2 years, I want to say, and I did get offered a movie, but I just couldn't do it because my schedule was so hectic. Maybe after wrestling, there might be one or two I could do. No, I think she's going to get somewhere beforehand. Rhea Ripley, just to make the point, is going to be, she's going to make that Hollywood bound thing too, I think. I think there's something where there's a real marketability for Rhea Ripley right now in the current character as the Mommy of the Judgment Day. It's working. I mean, she's already getting such a great response right now. Once they put her in Judgment Day, she's just got a rocket launcher on her. And she does. She's great in the role. It's so much better than her by herself. And the whole deal with her with Dominic, fantastic. Like, you can't do better than it. It's such a great role. And the truth is, I don't want to see Dom and Rhea split up. I don't want it to happen. Like, you can do whatever you want with Judgment Day. Like, Dom and Rhea Ripley, they're together. They're great. Fantastic. Love it. That's the show for tonight. And I appreciate all of you catching the show as you always do. You guys are awesome. WrestlingIsReal.com is the website. And remember that you can find the show here on a regular basis. Now, I want to just say one more thing. Let's talk about AEW Double or Nothing, because that is getting set up now. And I still got to check if my theater's actually going to carry it at the movie theater. And I don't know that yet. I got to find that out first before I do anything. So I will check that. And then hopefully find out what happens after that. Because I have to see if I'm going to be able to watch it on the 27th. And see if it's going to be made available for me to watch. Now, May 28th. Oh, look at this. Oh, yes, it's available. Nice. I can watch it at the Regal, so I have to go and book my ticket now for it. I will do that soon enough. So as for the show coming up, April the 28th, remember we have Night of Champions on that Saturday night, and then we'll have that. So like next week, I'll have a normal Wrestling Is Real podcast, and then I will be doing, and I'll see if I get catch Impact Under Siege beforehand to talk about it. But what I plan to go ahead and do is, I will probably do back-to-back nights of post shows for Night of Champions on Saturday next week, and Sunday night for Double or Nothing. Go through all that. I might catch Battleground. I don't know if I'll catch it for NWA. We'll find out. Or the NXT, excuse me. I just saw that, and I saw the NWA Crockett coming up on June 3rd, night 1 of a 2-night. So far, Night of Champions will have the crowning of the tournament finals to crown a new World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles. Undisputed Tag Team Championships, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Bloodline, Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, which, by the way, I love that storyline. I love it. And now the Usos, what are they going to do with that? I don't know, but it's exciting. Gunther against Mustafa Ali for the Intercontinental title. This is, of course, in Saudi Arabia. And Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes in a rematch. Great. I love all that. I wonder if there's going to be a stipulation in that match yet. I don't know yet. And then Double or Nothing so far, pack card. Fatal 4-Way, AEW World Title, MJF defends against Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, Jack Perry. They've done an excellent job on Dynamite of filling the role there, of getting those 4 pillars focused on regularly. Love it. AEW World Tag Team titles on the line. FTR will defend against Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Special guest referee Mark Briscoe. Like the FTR, Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal stuff tonight. And Karen Jarrett out of the woodwork. Oh my God. I did not think we would see her back. By the way, very heavy on the red lipstick, by the way, huh? We now have a ladder match for the TNT title. Wardlow against Christian Cage. Orange Cassidy has announced he will put up his AEW International title in a 21-man Blackjack Battle Royal. Wow. AEW Women's World Title, Jamie Hayter against Toni Storm. And then we'll have a match, Anarchy in the Arena. The Elite of Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson against the Blackpool Combat Club of John Moxley, Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and Will Yuta. Pack. I will watch it at the theater, and I will report on it that night right here. Starts at 7 o'clock, Sunday the 28th. Pay-per-view. Jesus, that's a lot of stuff, man. Wow. What a weekend coming up next weekend. But we'll kind of let it all work its way through. And that's the show for tonight. Thanks for listening in. Finding this as you always do. Remember, find the show, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to do that. You can find me on social media. Of course, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, at King of Podcasts. Website for the King of Podcast Radio Network, where you can find all my talk programming, including the Broadcasters Podcast, which we'll record tomorrow, and the Praise of the Debauchers is available on Wednesdays. KingofPodcasts.com, and also got music playlists up there for Spotify. Check those out as well. You might like one. Check it out. Subscribe for yourself. Let me know what you think. And of course, you want to reach out to me, kingofpodcasts@yahoo.com. That's my email address. Until next week, where we got a jam-packed week of pay-per-views, come back for another Wrestling Gazette podcast, because wrestling needs us.